What is going on, everybody? This is another episode of Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and my co-host Kyle Perkins joining me from the beautiful state of Kentucky. How are you doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good. Kyle's filling in full time for Rich, who is, of course, going to the game tomorrow night. He's going to the Canucks game. He's coming down to Nashville. So Kyle's filling in full time tonight on Catfish and Ice episode 101.
Yep, we're gonna have us a good one tonight. Got a little bit of draft talk and a little bit of Canucks talk and a little bit of All-Star talk.
There you go. Good stuff there. Yeah, so we are going to be going and looking back at some past Preds drafts and using that good old hindsight 2020. We're going to look back and see what picks did they make, which players were available when the Preds picked, and we're going to go 2013 to 2016 tonight. Those are the draft classes we picked tonight. And we're going to have a little fun with this. We don't have a game tonight, so it's going to be a lot of fun to look into some of those draft classes, figure out should the Preds have maybe picked a different player? Should they be happy with that player they picked? It'd be a lot of fun to look back on that stuff. We're going to preview the Vancouver Canucks game on Tuesday night, the third time these two teams have met. So they've split the season series so far 1-1. I don't know how you feel about it, Kyle. I feel like the Canucks are a hard team to figure out. They started off really bad, but now they got Bruce Boudreau in there, and they're starting to figure some things out.
They've been playing really well. The last few games, they went on a heck of a streak there right when Bruce got hired, and they've been a good team here lately. I'm trying to look and see where they're at, like power ranking wise. I'm sure there's 22nd in the power rankings, but it just they've been winning games. They've been winning games against good teams. So that's I won't say it's a trap game because they've already beat Nashville once. So
Yeah.
you just it's one you need to win. But
And of course, they got Thatcher Demko in net. And I'm sorry, but I feel like he's one of those goaltenders, much like Saros is in a way, that just doesn't get enough national recognition like he should. Thatcher Demko is a really good goaltender. I would expect him to be in net for that game. We'll see. The Canucks did play tonight, and I think they had Halak in net. They did. So you will see Thatcher Demko most likely tomorrow night on Tuesday night.
yeah, Demko is he's been a great goalie on a bad team so far this year, and now
Mm-hmm.
he's a great goalie on a team that's playing well. So
Exactly.
the good
So we're
thing
gonna
is,
break. We're gonna break down that matchup a little bit more. We'll save it a little later in this episode. We're gonna preview it for everybody. I mean, when you're seeing a team for the third time already this early in the season, a team that's not even in your own division, that's a little bit weird. I found that kind of strange that you're already playing a team for a third time that's not in your division this early in the. I mean, it's not early in the season, but like we just the midway point, so it's a little bit weird. So these two teams got to know each other pretty well by now that they're going to be playing each other for a third time on Tuesday night.
there's some familiarity, and some of those games have been kind of nasty, really.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
there's not a lot of love there in between those teams. So
Mm-mm. And then, of course, we're going to do our clutch performers of the week because it is Monday. I've already put my clutch performers out. I want to hear what Kyle has to say about those picks, and also if he's got another player or two to throw in there, we will share those. And then, of course, we will round out the episode with some other NHL quick hitters, including the NHL All-Star Weekend that's coming up shortly. We've got the Nhl Skills Competition, which I always find way more entertaining than the game itself. I don't know about Kyle on
oh,
that one.
absolutely. I don't watch the game. I'll watch the skills competition.
And the NHL added a couple of new competitions that, oddly enough, they seem cheesy, but I'm kind of intrigued. I don't know. Like, it's in Las Vegas this year. So they added a new competition with a fountain involved, and players are going to have to take a boat out to this, like, floating rink. I don't know. It sounds cheesy, but for whatever reason, my simple mind is very intrigued right now, Kyle.
Oh, I love it, and it's the fountain that it's the fountain at the Bellagio, which Ovi and the Caps went swimming in after the Cup win. Uh, so if there's not an Alex Ovechkin in that fountain, I'm going to be so disappointed, and the whole weekend will be
Yeah.
just a giant failure to me. But I think what it is they're going to go out there and they've got like these little circular targets out in the fountain, and they have to like chip a puck and get it in those targets. So
Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I can't wait to watch it.
it's just fun. And you know that's what it should be. It should be fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we will round out the episode talking about NHL All-Star Weekend, including Roman. He is indeed going to be an All-Star because Nathan MacKinnon will not be in it. And who else? I think there was another player too, but I know for
I
sure
know
Nathan MacKinnon's one of them.
McKinnon was the big one.
Yeah.
Um,
Roman Yossi will be participating in the NHL All-Star Weekend. So we got UC Saros and Roman Yossi to watch as Preds fans in NHL All-Star Weekend. So that'll be good to see. So yeah, let's get into it. This is episode 101 of Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Kyle Perkins, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Let's dive into it with the opening face-off, and that is looking back at past Preds draft classes. Let's go ahead and go in chronological order here, Kyle. Let's start with 2013. I've got it written down here. That was the draft. None other than a player we just brought up, Nathan MacKinnon, went number 1 overall in that draft. The Preds had the 4th pick overall, one of the highest picks they've ever had in their history, excluding their inaugural season when they picked 2nd overall and took David Legwine. And they took Seth Jones. And at the time, it was a very good pick. Everyone loved it. We all know that this franchise has always been known for going for the defenseman, the homegrown defenseman, and whatnot. But the Ryan Johansen trade happened. And here's where we are. Kyle, looking back on it now, it's so easy to look back on draft classes now, but this is why we're doing this, because it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting to look back on it now. Kyle, what do you think looking on that 2013 draft class and the Preds taking Seth Jones and what all transpired after that?
Well, I think it's worked out about as well as it could. You go down. There's some good players down below them. Somebody who plays for the Preds is in the first round on this draft. If you look number 25 at Montreal, um, Michael McCarron.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
oh yeah. Oh wow. I didn't even notice that. That's good. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm still kind of salty looking back at this that Florida took Sasha Barkov because I know that's who Nashville was all in. That's who they're going to pick. And then they picked him out of nowhere. But taking Seth Jones, developing him, and getting the return you got for him, Johansen hadn't lived up to it the entire time he's been in Nashville, but he's lived up to it enough that it's been pretty worthwhile.
Especially 2017 when the Preds made the Cup run. Ryan Johansen was a big part of that playoff run until he got injured and unfortunately could not play in the Cup final. And to this day, I always look back and think, what if Ryan Johansen is able to play in that Stanley Cup? Because he was on a tear that year. He really was. He was playing great for the Preds on that playoff run. You know, when they swept the Blackhawks, then they beat the St. Louis Blues in the second round. Then they beat the Anaheim Ducks in the Western Conference final to go to the Stanley Cup final. If Ryan Johansen is available in that Stanley Cup, who knows what would have happened. But yes, you got to look back on it now and think the Preds made the right pick. They made the pick that everyone thought they should make at the time. Seth Jones was the best defenseman in that draft, and that was what the organization wanted. That's what they prided themselves on, is getting homegrown defensemen. And they decided to make a trade, a big trade, to get Ryan Johansen. And I feel like it worked out more in the Preds' favor than it did for what the Blue Jackets ended up getting out of Seth Jones. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look down in this draft in the third round,
Oh
is
man,
where
we get
is
that far
where
back.
is where Nashville messed up.
Okay.
They took at number 64 Jonathan Ismail Diaby.
I'm looking at it.
I've never heard of this gentleman. If you go down to 75 and 77, you have Pavel Buchnevich and Jake Guentzel. And a little bit down, Anthony Duclair, Carter Verhaeghe. Yeah.
Even Matthias Janmark. I mean, you got Janmark there. He's been a solid. I mean, once you get deep into these draft classes, it really starts hurting because it really does. It's really not a perfect science once you get that deep into a draft. But there's always some gems, man. There's always some gems deep in a draft, and you just never know. Pecorine is exhibit A for the Preds when it comes to late gems in a draft. But even looking in that first round, though, in that 2013 draft, not saying that the Preds made the wrong pick with Seth Jones, but you still look at it, man. The Preds have always had a hard time drafting effectively when it comes to elite level forwards. And you look at some of the players that went after Seth Jones. You see Bo Horvat of the Canucks, who's had a nice little career. You look at Max Domi, who went 12th overall. He's been a solid player, almost 300 career points now. So, I mean, those are two players that kind of stood out that was like, okay, maybe it would have been nice for the Preds to have taken them at the time. But, you know, either way, really can't knock the Preds too hard for taking Seth Jones in that pick. I mean, that was the right pick. Everyone thought it was at the time.
Nashville's best and worst players were also taken in the same draft in the same round. UC Saros, 4th round, number 99, and Ben Harper, 4th round at 108.
Oh, wow. Yeah, UC Saros taking 99th overall. Wow, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's like turned out to be one of the best 4th round one of the best 4th round picks you can make. You're taking your franchise goaltender in the 4th round. I mean, that's just good catch there, Kyle. Yeah. I knew he was taking like mid-level, but I forgot that he was 4th round that far back. So that'd be cool to see there. Ben Harper, wow, got taken by the Ottawa Senators at 108. Here. Yeah. You look deep in these draft classes, though, and you're just like, wow. All right, let's go to 2014. Let's see what the Reds did that season. So that was – they had the 11th overall
Fiala
pick.
Draft.
Yes. And once again, we're dealing with a pick that was a really good pick, but the front office made a move, made a trade, and we never got to see the full long-term effect of that player in Nashville. Kevin Fiala, of course, was traded for Mikael Granlund. And going into this season, I think we all regretted that trade. But all of a sudden now, Mikael Granlund's like, wait a minute. I got something to say about that. And now we're like looking at that trade and we're like, okay, maybe we're not that mad about it. But Kevin Fiala's turned out to be a very quality player in this league, of course. So the pick itself wasn't bad. But let's look back on it now. Do we like the trade? Are we liking the trade now, Kyle?
I like the
Granlund
trade.
For Fiala.
I like the trade, but there's a couple of guys on down the way that kind of make me sad. Especially the gentleman number 25 going to Boston.
And no. I mean, Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Pasternak went 25th overall to Boston. So many teams passed on him.
I
It's
really
crazy.
had no clue he went that low, and I'm frankly shocked. Dylan Larkin from Detroit, he's a great
Another good
player.
one. Yep.
There's several. That was a really good draft. Really, really good draft.
Alex
Uh,
Tuck. I mean, Alex Tuck's turned out to be a good player.
hmm
Yeah, no,
uh,
that's good. Yeah.
Robbie Fabry's a good player. You've got Tony D'Angelo is an excellent player. He's a terrible person, but he's a
Mm-hmm.
good player. I mean,
Just
there's
judging the player itself, yes.
yeah. We won't go into good, bad, otherwise, but you're
Um,
that was a loaded top end draft. I mean,
it was.
Ekblad, Reinhardt, Draisaitl, Sam Bennett. That's a pretty good little top four there. Not
It is.
Nylander, yeah. Uh, and I think Fiala, if he hits the right system, he'll be a good player. Uh, uh, but at the moment, because the winner of a trade is going to evolve all the time. Uh, if they trade Fiala again and get somebody amazing for him, will that count against the trade from Nashville? Will that
Yeah.
be a negative against Nashville for making that trade? So it's really hard to grade.
Mm. Okay, so this is going to blow everyone's mind. We were just talking about how we couldn't believe that Pasternak went so late. How about the fact that Braden Point went in the third round of that draft? I
Huh.
mean, come on now. I mean,
Wow.
he went 79th overall to Tampa. Uh, let's see, where did the Preds pick? They picked twice. Yeah, they
Oh
picked
God.
twice. They picked two players who never did anything for them. Jack Dor a defenseman, and then they picked Justin Kirkland. So 17
Oof.
picks before Tampa took Braden Point, the Preds took Justin Kirkland. Yeah.
Big
Let's
ouchies.
and we're not coming down on just the Preds. I mean, we're talking about pretty much the entire league passed up on Braden Point. So this isn't just like coming down heavily on the Preds. This is more like, wow, drafting is not a perfect science, clearly, because you see a player like Braden Point go to the third round, and now he's a big part of why the Tampa Bay Lightning are back-to-back Cup champions
Yeah.
right now. So it's just crazy to
Na-
think about, but
Nashville got a pretty good steal in the fourth that year too in Victor Arvidsson.
oh yeah, for sure. That's kind of what you
So
love about. I feel like it's way hockey drafting is like so much different than all of your other major sports. I feel like you get way more steals. It's way more an inexact science than it is the NFL and the NBA, your two other major sports. As far as just, I mean, you just really don't know. I mean, your first round, yeah, especially your top 10, usually feel pretty good about. You're getting a generational type of player, most
mhm.
likely. But these second, third, and fourth round gems, you just don't know what you're taking. And it's proof right there looking at these at 2014.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's you're getting such a raw, unfinished product with most hockey players. They're
Mm-hmm.
17 to 18 years old most of the time when they're drafted. So, God, they're just it's a crapshoot. You're hope betting on futures. Um, so you
Going to
never know.
2000, yeah,
Go
going to
ahead.
2015, Preds, let's see where the Preds picked there. They didn't even pick in the first round of 2015. And their second round pick, let's see. Wow. So they took Yakov Trenin with their first pick of 2015 at number 55 overall. Let's go ahead and give them a very good I'll give him a solid A of a grade on that pick to take Yakov
Um,
Trenin that late.
a guy who's going to be a solid third liner for you. Absolutely, I'll take it all day long.
You didn't have you're talking about a draft where you didn't have a first round pick. I'd have to go back and do some digging on why they didn't have a first round pick. I don't have that written down in front of me, but for whatever reason, they didn't have a first round pick in that year's draft. And to go and find a player like Yakov Trenin in the second round like that, I mean, that's good. Looking back on it now, that's really good. Of course, we could probably, I mean, I'm looking at it now. We could probably find a couple players that maybe they would have been better off taking. But again, I don't see anything that really stands out like eye-opening where you're like, wow, maybe they shouldn't have taken Trennan. They should have taken this player. I'm not really seeing a player where they just completely screwed up. And this is actually looking like a really solid draft class when you really look at it. Because then they took 85th overall. They took Tommy Novak, which we're all hoping that Novak can get healthy. And eventually, we expect him to eventually make his way back to the NHL. He absolutely earned it. So they took him at 85th overall. Then 116th overall, or 115th overall, I'm sorry, they took Alexander Carrier. You want to talk about 3 great picks in a row? Mid-round draft picks? That's strong. To take Trennan, Novak, and Carrier. I mean, come on, that's pretty impressive, Kyle.
You missed one. They actually picked at 100 as well. Anthony Richard, Tony Rick.
I did miss that.
And he's still tearing it up in Milwaukee. So
my apologies. My apologies to Anthony Richard for skipping over you because you are a very vital part of the Milwaukee Admirals. And another really good pick for the system. So, that's 4 in a row they made. How hard is it for a GM to really, really hit a home run? Now, I wouldn't call it a home run, but definitely they made really strong picks, 4 picks in a row in that draft. That's hard to do.
I mean, for what Carrier has evolved into, 4th round is a pretty good steal for him. I think that's a win.
This isn't an indictment on the Preds, but there's one player that went in the 5th round that is absolutely lighting up the NHL right now. Hit 100 points faster than an elite company when it comes to how quick he hit 100 career points. And that is, of course, Kirill Kaprizov. Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
Kaprizov went in the 5th round of that draft at number 135 overall. I mean, I didn't realize he went that late in that draft. I'm kind of learning something tonight.
Yeah, and it also tells you how long ago he got drafted before he actually started. That round is actually really good. You've got Troy Terry, who's an all-star this year. Adam Gaudette's a good player in that 5th round.
Connor Garland,
Ethan Bear. I really like Ethan Bear. Edmonton screwed up by
that really is a really good round. Wow.
To be a 5th round, there's several players that are in the league from that round.
And then you've got Andrew Mangiapane for the Flames, who's really taken off right now. Also has already hit the 100-point mark for his career. He went in the 6th round of that, is that 6th round? Yeah. Mm-hmm. He went in round 6 that year. So, I mean, that's turned out to be a really, really good draft all the way around that 2015 draft.
Yeah, that was, you can't really complain if you're getting guys from up and down all 7 rounds that are making the league, then it's a pretty solid draft.
Let's look at this draft. I mean, look at the top end of it, dude. You've got Connor McDavid, of course, went number 1. Jack Eichel went number 2. Dylan Strome went number 3. Mitch Marner went number 4. I mean, and then you've got the Carolina Hurricanes, who they whiffed pretty badly.
Yeah.
Well, not badly, but not a player who's – but those top 4 picks are just just outstanding picks. Mikko Rantanen went in that draft class in the top 10. Yeah, that was a really good. Barzal, Kyle Connor, Yeah, that 2015 draft class is just really amazing top to bottom.
I always get confused with the Svechnikov brothers, the
Yeah,
Evgeny
easy to do
Svechnikov
that.
and not Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah,
uh,
it is
Still,
easy. All right, so let's go to 2016. We're going to stop at the 2016 draft because I really want to go further than that because you really can't make sweeping opinions on draft classes further really closer than that because it takes so long for your prospects to develop. You really don't know what they're going to do in the NHL. And of course, when it comes to the Preds, they're just now getting to a point where they're starting to get all these prospects into the NHL and learn what they have. For the longest time, thanks to the Cup run, they were relying almost completely on veterans up until last season when everyone was shaking their fists asking for the youth movement, of course. And so we're not going to go past 2016 with this redraft because really you can't really say one way or the other just yet. I mean, you could, but we're going to stop at 2016. So 2016 was the year that Austin Matthews went number 1 overall to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'd have to say he made a really good pick there. Can't argue with that.
yeah.
Preds picked number 17, and they took Dante Fabro.
Yep.
And
And
our guy Luke Cunning, interestingly enough, went number 15, 2 picks 4 to the Minnesota Wild. So that's kind of,
yep.
interesting little nugget there. What's your overall takeaway from that pick? What do you think looking back on it now?
Looking around at the guys that are directly around Fabro, he's the best player out of that bunch. But there's 2 down at the top of the second round that could be kind of interesting, knowing what you know now, in Alex
Yep.
DeBrincat and Jordan Kyrou.
Yep.
Kyrou this year has been amazing.
He has. He made an all-star game.
Yeah. And then DeBrincat will be the new face of the Blackhawks after Kane and Taves, and hopefully, as much as we all dislike the Blackhawks, I think we would like to see the Blackhawks be better. And DeBrincat's been the one that's actually stood up and said, "Hey, we need to be better. We can't be what we were."
That.
So
Yeah.
I respect the kid for that, and I think he's going to end up being the face of that franchise going forward. So DeBrincat and Kyrou, maybe knowing what you know now, but at this time, there's no.
Those are the 2 that stood out to me, DeBrincat in particular. And the reason why is, I mean, we all know this. The writing is on the wall. If you follow this team for any length amount of time, you know this. This franchise has always had a hard time really finding homegrown left wing, right wing scoring talent. They just never, it's always eluded them. They tried to go out and find it on the open market by signing Matt Duchene, by getting Mikael Granlund, by, like Ryan Johansen. Like they've tried, but when it comes to drafting, they've always had a hard time. Of course, they drafted Kevin Fiala, but they traded him away. Other than that, it's really hard to find draft picks, early draft picks, first round draft picks, where they've taken a really good, pure scoring player. Just hasn't happened. Philip Forsberg was the steal of all steals. He is not homegrown. He was not drafted. For any new Preds fans who are listening tonight, he might seem like he's homegrown, but the Preds did not draft him. They absolutely robbed him from the Capitals for Martin Erat, whose career was over basically at that point. I'll still never understand why the Capitals made that trade, but we're totally okay with it now.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
But I mean, they drafted Alexander Radulov. That's one that people think about back in the mid 2000s. But they're so few and far between. The Preds have never been able to draft homegrown scoring wingers. So when you look at this draft class and you see it Alex DeBrincat, who you could have taken in that spot, as much as I love Dante Fabro, and I'm one of the biggest supporters of Fabro, I think he gets way too much criticism from the fan base. That's one
Yeah.
player I look at in that draft class where I'm like, if I could take it back, if I had a time machine, maybe I would take Alex DeBrincat over Dante Fabro. I just got to be honest there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I probably would, uh, just because the fact that Nashville's never really had a problem getting or having top end defenders. In fact, they had to shed Seth Jones, so
Exactly.
because they simply did not have room for him. So
And here's another example. When they have drafted scoring type of players, they don't hold on to them. Perfect example. Our guy, Wren Pitlik. They drafted Wren Pitlik in the 3rd round of this draft class we're talking about. And they ended up losing him on waivers for nothing. Which, I'm freaking out like some people are about it, because honestly, I don't know if a lot of room for him on this team. And I don't know if he fits this type of team. But the point is, whenever they do seem to draft players who have a knack for scoring the puck, they don't hold on to these players. Wren Pitlik is another example of that. They took him in the 3rd round. I think he still has a good future in this league of scoring a lot of goals.
oh yeah, it's just the fact of Rim getting on a team that he fits. He's going to get to play a lot of top 6 minutes in Montreal because they're bad. Uh, and they just don't score a lot of goals. So they need all the help they can get, and
Yeah.
he seems like he's doing that well there so far. So I'm happy for him. I agree with you though. He probably was odd man out in Nashville. Uh, he's not going to knock Trennan or Jano off of a 3rd line. They're not going to bench Tomasino in favor of him. Uh, so there wasn't room.
Have you watched Wren Pitlik's press conferences, though? He is the most calm, cool, and collected customer I've ever seen in my life in press conferences.
Oh yeah,
Like,
nothing phases
he's
him.
just, he's just like so chill, asking all, like, these reporters are asking him the really tough questions. And he's just like, oh, like, yeah, I didn't play great and I'm getting better. Like, he's just so relaxed. Like, he's like just as chill can be. Like, nothing is going to worry this guy. He's not overly emotional. He even called himself out. I remember the press conference. I think it was when he first got traded to Minnesota, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. He did this press conference and got asked a really, really tough question. And he's just about his play or why he was traded. It was somewhere around those lines. And he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm perfect, basically, is what he said. I've got to play better, and I'm working on this. But he was so cool and chill the way he said it. And it's like most of the time you don't see that. Most of the time players, they get defensive. They don't want to answer the questions. Wren Pitlik's like, oh no, I'll give you the answer.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
He doesn't care. He's just like, whatever. Okay, cool.
But so the Preds had 2 picks, and 2 out of 3 picks there. They picked number 76, they take Wren Pitlik. Then at number 78, they take Frederick Allard, which I don't know if Freddie Allard's ever going to make a full-time role in the NHL, unfortunately. But he's another player that I feel like certainly is great for your prospect system. And he's great in the Milwaukee Admirals.
You have to have guys in Milwaukee too.
Exactly.
So you've got to kind of draft those guys as well. They don't just grow on trees and show up. So
he's only played in 1 NHL game so far. So I don't know if he'll ever get a full-time role in the NHL, especially in a place like Nashville, where the assembly line of defensemen is just already so competitive or whatever. But
yeah,
still not a terrible pick when they took Freddie Allard, because he's definitely an important player to the Admirals for sure. So, you look at the rest of that draft. Let's see. The Preds took Patrick Harper at number 138. he's an important player to your prospect pool as well.
Yeah. Um, he is another one of those leaders in Milwaukee that make that team relevant every year. Um, you can't really complain if you're drafting mid-round guys and they make your AHL team better for a long period of time. You can't really complain about it that awful much.
Nope, you cannot. All right, so we just went back and looked at drafts 2013 through 2016 of the Predators. In future episodes, we'll probably go back a little bit further. But since we didn't have a game tonight, we wanted to introduce something new there. So we want to look at some past drafts. A lot of fun to see how you would change your picks looking back on it. Because, of course, it's not a perfect science. But I do feel like the Preds have done a really good job in the past 2 or 3 drafts at really making the smart picks. Now, we can't make a sweeping opinion on these picks now because a lot of these players haven't even made it to the NHL yet. But as of now, it looks like definitely the last 2 drafts, the Preds have made the right choices when it comes to drafting Philip Tomasino, Luke Evangelista, Yaroslav Askarov. I mean, they've made a lot of really solid picks in recent memory, even if you want to look at Eeli Tolvanen. I mean, they've done some really good things. So their drafting has been pretty good in recent memory.
Yeah. I get more excited for Evangelista every time I see him
Yes,
play. That kid is just electric. Uh,
he is.
he's like Philip Forsberg, but faster. Uh, just the creativity wise. Um, I don't know how fast he's going to look when he gets to the NHL against NHL players, or even the AHL
Exactly.
against AHL players. But just seeing his creativity with the puck and the goals that he scores is just that kid's pretty special. He's on a really good team. He's the captain of a really good team. Uh, I'm excited for him. Um,
I think when we talked to On the Future, Eric Dene of On the Future, when he was on the pod, like it was a while, it was a little bit ago, a few weeks ago, but when he came on, he said that really the only thing about Evangelista is he might be a little undersized for
yeah,
the
he's
NHL
small.
level, but
He
his knack for scoring is just like borderline, like getting like elite level type of stuff, of course.
yeah.
And so
Uh,
it's going to be really interesting to see him and see what he can translate to the AHL because he's going to have to go there first before you know, he's not going to go directly to the NHL. I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think so, but I don't think he spends that much time down. Um,
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
I know another guy that Eric is pretty big on is that Adam Wilsby from Sweden,
Defenseman. Yeah.
the defenseman. I know he's pretty high on him out of that 2020 draft. Um, there's some good players in the system. I know that I read an article today saying that uh, the prospect pool for the Predators had moved from 22nd rank to 15th or 16th, something like that, in just the
Mm-hmm.
last year.
Yeah.
So, uh,
I've even seen some. I mean, you see it all over the board, but I've even seen some people rank their prospect pool around top 10, like 10 or 11 or 12, but they're in that range. And all you got to do is go back 2 or 3 seasons ago, like the season, like be the draft when they drafted Eeli Tolvanen. If you go back that far, I remember specifically the Preds had one of the worst prospect pools in the league at that
yeah,
time, according to scouts. And you're going to get that when you talk about a team that went all in for a Stanley Cup run so it makes sense. And so now you've seen David Poyle over the last 3 or 4 years really heavily invest in rebuilding this team from the bottom up, which is the
hmm
right way to do it in the long run.
yeah. You look at 2018's draft; they had 4 picks,
Exactly.
and they
Like you're not
were
going to do much there.
yeah, and they didn't pick till the 4th round.
Yeah.
So
They gave away a lot
this,
of picks. They gave
yeah,
away a lot of picks apparently leading up to that draft through trades and willings and dealings because they were all in, like they had a very top end veteran heavy roster. And that's why you end up in a draft where you don't have a lot of picks. But ever since then, so 2019 to now, they've really, really, looking at it right now, they've made some really good picks.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, you look 2019 through 2021, they've drafted, I would say, extremely well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they some guys who could be pillars of your team for decades to go. Um, Whether it be, and it's a variety of players that they've drafted. Uh, you look from Tomasino and Afanaseyev and Semyon Chistyakov, who I can't wait to see him over here and playing in North America. I'm hopeful that could happen. I'd love to see Juuso Parssinen come to Milwaukee,
Yeah.
the 7th-round pick from
Mm-hmm.
19. Very good player. You've got Luke Prokop, who is an excellent defenseman. Several just good players.
Yeah, there's a big reason to feel really excited about this team. And of course, we've already talked about it in the last couple episodes. The Preds have a very favorable cap situation as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
to be very aggressive in the open market. So not only are the Preds completely outperforming season expectations right now with the team they have, but they've got reasons to feel really excited about their future thanks to their prospect pool, and they have money to spend. So there's a lot of reasons to feel good around here right now about this team. So it's good times. With that, let's move along in episode 101 of Catfish and Ice with Chad Minton and Kyle Perkins, your host, presented by DraftKings. And let's go ahead and give you a good old-fashioned preview. We don't do previews because a lot of times our episodes are live during the games, but tonight it's a non-game night, and the Preds have enjoyed a 4-day break in the schedule. They've played a lot more games than many of the other teams in their division, so now the other teams are kind of getting caught up with these games in hand. So the Preds have a 4-day break. This upcoming month in February, they don't have that many games either, and of course you have the All-Star break as well. So the Preds are getting ready to have a little bit of a pretty big break here in the schedule. But they've got the Vancouver Canucks coming up on Tuesday night, and they've already played this team twice. They've split the season series. The Preds won the first meeting 3-2. I still remember that game very clearly because we did a watch-along on the Hockey Podcast Network's YouTube channel. And boy, was that a fun game to do a watch along for, because I don't know if everyone remembers, but that was the game that Matt Duchene broke loose and scored a big goal on Demko. And go back and look at that highlight. That was like a really exciting, fun game back on November 5th. So the early going of the season. And then, of course, the Preds just played the Vancouver Canucks like little less than 2 weeks ago, and they lost 3-1 in a game that I felt like the Preds just didn't show up for. I don't know, Kyle, what you remember about that game, but just really was kind of a game that was kind of a snoozer. Not a lot was working for the Preds at all. Demko made 31 saves on 32 shots, and the Preds went out with David Riddick in that game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the game that I posted the meme of Saskatchewan and said this is how flat the Preds looked in this game.
Yeah, it was not a great game.
Yeah, there was no energy at all, and Thatcher Demko wasn't going to let anything cheat by him,
No.
and if you come out that flat against a good goalie, you deserve to lose.
Yeah, I mean, Demko is one of those goalies for sure that very, very rarely, just like UC Saros, very rarely is he going to give up a soft goal. You have to get those high danger chances to score on a goaltender like Thatcher Demko, and we should expect nothing less than that on Tuesday when we play them again for the third time as I said earlier, very, very weird to play a non-divisional team for a third time at this point in the season. It's kind of strange, but these teams got to know each other very well by this point. The Canucks aren't a team that really scares me. I feel like the Preds should be able to beat them if they play their game. I think when both teams play their best game, the Preds are the better team. But the Canucks, man, they are playing with a new sense of confidence right now. They really are, ever since Bruce Boudreau took over. So, I mean, it'll be another really difficult test, and it's a team that knows you very well, but you know them very well as well. So it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, it'll be a fun physical game. Should have Ellie Tolvanen back. He should be back from COVID protocol. That will be a big deal.
That's big.
You get, hopefully it'll be Tolvanen, Johansen, and Cunning on the line together again. I think that would be great. And that would put Cousins back down with Tomasino. And I like having that nasty with Tomasino because it kind of it gives him a little more room to operate whenever he's got somebody that's kind of agitating, because Phil's not a big guy. He's not going to be out there hammering people. So yeah.
And it's really nice to have Saros get a little bit of a break in this schedule. You know?
Yeah, he's been earning his keep, that's for certain.
And I know he can handle it. But not only is he getting all these starts, but in the starts he's getting, he's almost all the time he's having to make 40 plus saves. So it's not like he's getting very many starts where he's just cruising. Like every game he's facing an onslaught. So I feel like he's going to come back pretty refreshed and ready to go for this Tuesday night matchup with the Canucks. I'm not worried about the Preds coming in flat. This team is laser focused. They don't strike me as the type of team that's just going to take anything for granted. The only thing I could see this game going sideways on is basically what really does them in a lot of their losses is just giving up way too many power play opportunities to the opposition. But from what I understand, the Canucks are not a great power play team. So maybe that'll work out in your favor a little bit. The Canucks are only 18th in the power play, so they're not like some elite power play juggernaut by any means. And the Canucks also have the worst penalty kill in the league. So there you go. Yeah, they're 32nd. Yeah, I just looked that up now. I didn't realize they were that bad.
That's rough. We need to get
that's weird, right? That's weird for a team like the Canucks. You wouldn't expect the Canucks to be that bad, but in that department. But yeah, so you've got opportunities there. The Preds are still hanging around top 10 in the power play. Like all year, they figured out a way to be a top 10 power play. So that's probably way in to win this game. But both matchups against the Canucks this season have been a little different. So the first game was back and forth and just totally exciting. This past game was a snooze fest. So we'll see what happens in this one. But if I got to bet some money on it, when you got Demko versus Saros, maybe you can expect another low-scoring game, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What you want to give a prediction?
A prediction?
Let's do it. Let's have fun with it. It's always fun to look back on, even though hockey is so hard to predict a final score. But we'll have fun with it.
Since Vancouver played tonight, but they didn't play Demko, I think it will be a 4-3 game and probably overtime or the shootout. And I think the Preds will win this one since they lost the last game.
All right. I like it. I'm going to go a little bit more confident here. I'm going to go Preds win. And you know what? UC Saros is due for a shutout.
Oh, no. You put the juju on him.
No. I'm putting the confidence in him because I love UC Saros and I have faith in him. He's due for a shutout, Kyle. How is UC Saros and I put the tweet out. I don't know how it went viral, but not viral, but it got a lot of exposure that I didn't expect. I do think he's a top Vezina candidate, and
There's no
mainly
way
because
he's not.
he is used so much. He is overly used and still is putting up elite numbers. And so he is right up there. I got a lot of pushback in favor of Igor Shesterkin, which I totally responded to those people and said I am okay with that.
I think
I'm
it's
not
between
against
those two. Honestly,
exactly. And
those two
there's
guys
you
right
know
there
even
are just next level.
yeah. But
Uh,
the fact that UC Saros how many shutouts does Saros have this year? He can't have more than one, I don't think.
uh, maybe two at most.
We can find out real quick because the internet's an amazing tool. But let's see. I should know this off the top of my head,
He has
honestly.
two shutouts
He's
this
got
year.
two. He's got two. I think he should have more. Like I just feel like he's due for a shutout. And so I'm gonna go ahead and call my shot because sometimes you gotta call your shot. So I'm going a 2-0 Preds win.
Chad's going out there with the bat and doing the bambino at the left field wall.
And the pitchforks are going to come after me tomorrow on social media if the Preds somehow get roasted for like 4 or 5 goals. I will not hear the end of it.
Nope. They will
But
chant
it's
it's all your
okay.
fault and talk about you.
It's okay. But I'm putting myself on a limb here because I believe in my guy UC Saros. I believe in him. I know he's due for a shutout, and I feel it coming. He's going to be rested. He's going to be good to go. Give me a UC Saros shutout, and I actually think he's not going to even have to put up 40 saves to do it. The Preds only gave up 24 shots to Vancouver in their last meeting. Now, David Riddick gave up 3 goals on those 24 shots. But if UC Saros only has to face that similar of a load, let's say around 30 shots, I like Saros' chances of maybe getting a shutout.
I
So I'm
think
calling my
that's
shot.
fair.
It's fair. I'm going out on a limb. Anytime you predict a shutout, you're going out on a limb. But I believe in my guy, UC Saros. So I'm predicting a 2-0 Preds win. Don't at me. Don't at me. All right.
uh,
All right.
in looking at this, I happen to notice Saros finished 11th in the Hart Trophy last year.
I did not even realize he finished in the voting.
Yeah. He was number 11 in the Hart Trophy voting last year. So that's for most valuable player, and I think he should finish higher than that this year.
Yeah, he will, but I mean, it's so hard for a
it's hard
goaltender
for a
to win it.
goalie. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're sharing a league with Connor McDavid's not going to win it if his team's not playing better. But Cal McCarr, I got to tell you, he's getting a ton of hype. And he's actually starting to get some Hart Trophy talks too.
Okay.
But
Cale McCarr we had this discussion in the group chat the other day.
Yeah.
I think they should have 2 different defenseman awards.
I liked that idea when he said that. I did.
I mean, name the offensive defenseman award, either Ray Bork or Bobby Orr. Name it after one of those 2 guys, or if you just want to call it the Boston's the Defenseman's Trophy. I don't care, but there needs to be a trophy for an actual defensive defenseman or / all-around defenseman, and then an offensive defenseman, just like you have the Selke for forwards for the best defensive forward. I think it's only fair where you've got the guys, the 2 guys from the Islanders that just don't play offense, but they are absolute monsters. You are not scoring when they're on the ice. Guys like that get no credit because they're not scoring a bunch of points. And that's not taken away from the guys that score a bunch of points. God knows we all love Roman Josi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but he's, you know, the other style of defenseman is just as valuable in my book.
I do like that. Yeah, I do really like that idea because, I mean, the game has evolved. I mean, it's nothing like it used to be, and now the Norris Trophy has basically become which defenseman scores the most points. I mean, it's really become that basic, and it's kind of sad because there's way more to being an effective elite defenseman than just scoring points. And I mean, like you just said, we all get lost in that because we love Roman Yossi and stuff. But that would be cool to have a separate award for each one. Like I'm not against that at all. But let's move on here to episode 101. We're gonna do our clutch performers of the weekend in a little bit, or here coming up, because I've got to list my three, and I want to see what Kyle thinks about them. Of course, our co-host Rich Howe is actually in Nashville. He came down from the Louisville area. He's going to the Canucks game tomorrow. He's going to share his experience. We'll retweet all the stuff. He'll be back on Thursday for the next episode. But in the meantime, we are going to do our clutch performers of the week with Kyle. Kyle's going to give us some of his clutch performers as well. Before we get to that, we got to get ready for the Super Bowl. Of course, we're presented by DraftKings. DraftKings has a great offer for you this week using our promo code THPN. The moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here in honor of the big game. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. That is the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. If you predicted those two teams to go to the Super Bowl, then go ahead and private message me and tell me what tomorrow's lottery numbers are.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know something I don't know. But anyway, the Cincinnati Bengals versus the LA Rams, that's our Super Bowl 56. You can bet on either team and get 56-1 odds. And if your team wins, $280 in free bets. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code THPN. Get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code THPN at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And, of course, this DraftKings Sportsbook is also now live in New York, meaning you can bet from almost a third of the country now. If the Sportsbook is still not available in your state, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56 as well. And you can get a free shot at $1 million top prize with their first deposit if you're a new customer. And so, yeah, DraftKings Sportsbook app, a lot of fun, especially if you use our promo code. Go do it. Let's go ahead and do our clutch performers of the week. Kyle, how about you go ahead and throw some players out there before I do my list?
First off, I'm going to say a guy who's got a point in the last two games, and that's Matt Benning. He's got assists in the last two games. I'm trying to not use the same guys because we all know Forsberg. You know, everybody knows that.
You can use my guys. It's all good.
And then I'm also going to go Luke Cunning, who's started coming along and turning his season around a little bit. Scored the first goal against Seattle the other night. He's being a solid player. A lot of hits, a lot of production out of him here lately, and hopefully he gets even better when he gets his line back together. Because he's been another one of those guys that's bounced around to 18 different lines this year. So, in your three, I can't argue one of those. Those guys are playing like they deserve more money than they make. Philip Forsberg's going to get it. UC Saros deserves it, and Matt Duchene already makes it, and now he's earning it. So,
well,
that's my.
We only have 2 games to go. we only have 2 games to go off this week. So small sample size, of course. UC Saros, I think, has been in every Clutch Performers of the Week list this year. And why wouldn't he be? I mean, he might have missed one list if I had to go back and look. Matt Duchene is actually making his first appearance, believe it or not, on my Clutch Performers of the Week. And that's only because he still can be streaky at times. But this past week, in these past 2 games, he was absolutely clutch in the clutch moments. Matt Duchene is my 3rd Clutch Performer of the Week with 2 goals, 7 shots on goal over the 2 games, played over 18 minutes of average ice time, even put up 3 hits. And he had the best Corsi percentage on the team against Edmonton. So even though the Preds did lose that game in the shootout, that still was a game where the Preds went toe-to-toe with the Oilers. I know the Oilers are way underperforming, but they're still the Oilers, and they're still top-heavy. They still have a lot of superstar talent. And the Preds went toe-to-toe with them all the way to the shootout. It's a shame that you had to lose in a shootout in that way. But Matt Duchene was the most effective player on the ice in that game, along with Philip Forsberg. So that's why I had to put him at number 3 as far as clutch performers. UC Saros, in 2 starts this week, had 77 saves on 81 shots faced for a 95 save percentage. And I thought this stat was really crazy. Most of the time, when you see goaltenders who are constantly having to face 40-plus saves, usually you see their record suffer. You see them take a lot of losses in games where they shouldn't be taking losses because they played great. They made all these saves. Not the case with UC Saros. He is 5-0-2 this season in games where he makes 40-plus saves. Thought that was kind of crazy to see.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding, really, when you get down to thinking about it.
I mean, his losses this season are actually, a lot of his losses were in, oddly enough, are in games where he didn't have to make that many saves. It's kind of weird. It's like backwards.
Yeah, he's you could tell he learned from Pekka, because Pekka always said he plays better when he faces more shots because he doesn't get out of his groove. If he
There's
can get
something
in
to
his
that.
groove and sit there and be working constantly. And we were talking about draft picks earlier. If you watch Askarov will sit back in his crease and not do anything for a good 5 or 6 minutes. Just stand there, and then he looks disheveled once his full line of Ben Harper defensemen just let whoever through, and he gets lit up because he's not ready. He's just I could imagine it's hard to stay warmed up as a goalie if you're just standing there
That's
for
true.
that
Yeah.
long. Uh,
Yep.
UC doesn't have that problem.
Like you're almost more you're more susceptible to giving up that soft goal if you're rusty and you're just kind
Yeah,
of chilling on the other end of the ice, waiting for the action to come back to you. Like that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, I've never played goaltender in hockey, so I really can't personally speak to that. But that makes a lot of sense if you just talk about sports in general. If you're playing any sport, and you're not staying warm and you're not staying in the groove of the game, and you're getting rusty or you're tightening up because you're not playing as much, then I could see where you'd be more susceptible to making mistakes. I don't see why it would be any different for a goaltender.
think about something that most everybody's played at one point in their life. Think about ping pong. You're more likely to miss on that first hit than any other hit. If you get it served to you and you send it back, there's a good chance that y'all will get in a rhythm and have it going back and
Yeah,
forth and back and
very
forth.
true.
That first one is the one that gets you most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's same thing for a goalie. It's not good to sit there and be bored.
But going
But
into,
having
well,
this,
we don't have that problem with Saros, because going into
no,
Monday's action, Saros has the most saves in the league. He has the most starts in the league, and he's still managing to be right up there with the other goaltenders in terms of your key statistical categories, in terms of goals against, and in terms of save percentage, in terms of wins, all that stuff. Saros is not being worn down like you would think a goaltender like him might be suffering from with all of his usage. That was the whole point of that tweet I put out, was that I do think that heavy usage matters because you're talking about a goaltender who has a ton of pressure on him and the weight of his team's success on his shoulders, way more so than some of these other goaltenders who aren't having to put together nearly as many starts, and they do have a backup goaltender who's playing a lot more. I do think that should factor into it in my book. So that's just kind of was the whole point of that tweet.
If you look at it, Saros has faced right at 100 more shots than the second place
That's
goalie in
crazy.
the
I didn't know it
NHL.
was that big of a gap.
Yeah, UC is at 1178 and Connor Hellebuck is at 1082.
And he's another one. Connor Hellebuck's another goaltender that gets relied on heavily. But again, Igor Shesterkin, I'm not against him. If he wins the Vezina, and of course we have almost a full half a season left, so this could change. The narrative could change. I'm just saying where we sit right now. If they awarded the players right now and they gave it to Shesterkin over Saros, I wouldn't be that up in arms for it because Shesterkin does have some very astounding numbers as well, and he does have better numbers in some categories than Saros does. Like in that regard, he does. So, I mean, I'm not against that. I'm not.
Shesty's a bad dude.
And then let's go to my top clutch performer of the week. That is Philip Forsberg. It couldn't be anybody else this week. Although I did think about Saros being number one and Forsberg number two, but really it's splitting hairs at that point. But I did put Philip Forsberg number one because he had back-to-back games this week of a goal and an assist. It's becoming a regular occurrence. It's actually a little bit more surprising when he doesn't score a goal in a game than when he does score. When it's become the point where it's a regular occurrence. It's like, okay, Phil scored another goal. Like, we expected that. Like, what else is new? Like, it's becoming routine for Philip Forsberg to score highlight reel goals. And it is a beautiful thing to watch because this franchise has not had this very often in their history.
Yeah, Phil is actually second in the league in goals per game. Leon Draisaitl's first with 0.78, and then Phil is second with 0.69. So that's pretty nice.
I think that's pretty good company, Kyle.
Yeah, just a wee bit.
And then, of course, Jay Fresh put out his goals above expected leaders, and Philip Forsberg leads that category.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jay Fresh. He's my favorite analytical. There's a lot of good ones out there I could list, but Jay Fresh is probably just because I like his graphics and I like a lot of his the way his player cards and the way he puts a lot of, and he's been on the podcast before in the early days. You get a lot smarter when you talk to him for sure. But I love his player cards and stuff. And I'm trying to pull up that list to see what other players are on there. But Forsberg is leading the league going into yesterday's action. Yeah, here, I got the list right here. So yeah, you got goals above expected leaders January 29th, so 2 days ago. You got Philip Forsberg. Number 2 is Troy Terry, who we brought up in the draft classes earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Cal McCarr at number 3, Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider is having a great season. Number 4, Brad Marchand at number 5, Leon Draisaitl number 6, Jared McCann. I'm kind of surprised to see a Kraken player on that list. Didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. But
Tyler Bertuzzi, number 8, Marcus Foligno, number 9, and Andre Burakovsky is number 10. So, Forsberg's leading that list there.
He's
So yeah,
he's also him and Duchene are both in the top level of goals this year scored in the league. Uh, Phil Forsberg is tied with Dylan Larkin and Thomas Hurdle uh, with 22. Uh, right in there with some of your bigger names. Brad Marchand has 21. Philip Forsberg has more goals than Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid has 21 goals.
I don't
Philip
even know what
Forsberg
to
has
say.
22. Um, McDavid also has 37 assists. So that uh, a lot more points, but Phil's got him on goals. Small victories. Small
For
victories.
sure, yeah. It's just crazy. And then, of course, we're not going to beat the dead horse because we've probably talked about it at nauseum for the past like month. But it's all really they're talking about on Nashville sports radio today. I was driving around town doing some errands, and our crew that we love on 102.5 The Game, Willie Donick, all those awesome Preds media team. They were having a really good discussion on 102.5 The Game today about Philip Forsberg and basically what we've been saying for a while now. The team is just going to have to pucker up and pay the man. I mean, what else can you do? And Kyle, you've been beating this drum for a while. You cannot let this guy go for nothing.
Oh,
You
you've
can't.
you've
That will
you
be such that will be David Poyle's worst decision as a general manager. Aside from Kyle Turris, I will never forgive him for Kyle Turris.
yeah, and he shouldn't be. No.
But other than Kyle Turris, I'm sorry. The only other thing I can say is if he loses Philip Forsberg for nothing, he needs to not show back up to the office the next day.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and turn your keys in and give it to the next person in line to be a GM, because that will be such a terrible thing to happen.
Yeah, it's just that's not good. That's a bad look to lose a franchise guy like that, and if you lose him for nothing, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I don't really know of a better way to
Yeah.
put it. That's
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. His value is so high right now, and I
yeah,
mean, it's only going to keep going up most likely. I don't think he's going to be traded. You got to wait and see if I'm sure David Poyle is working around the clock. It's got to be the top thing on his agenda right now is to figure out a way to get him to resign. But let's be honest, why would Philip Forsberg be in any rush right now to sign? It's going to probably come down to the Preds are going to overpay for Philip Forsberg.
yeah. I
What else
think,
can you do?
and you're going to have to overpay if it goes all the way out to free agency. You're going to have to because
Yeah.
you see the freaking Oilers just paid Evander Kane a couple $1,000,000.
Yeah.
They're throwing money at this thing like it's going out of style because they can't win.
The Preds have the cap room to do it, and it's going to come down to if the Preds don't overpay him, someone else will.
Yes, and
He's gonna get overpaid by somebody.
I think what the sticking point's going to end up being is going to be no move clauses. Uh, David Poole famously does not like giving out no move clauses. He is, I think, as of right now, the only one with a no move clause is Yossi. Uh, I think
Pecorine had one.
Pekka had one, and then I think Duchene might have a modified one that kicks in
He
at some
does.
point.
He does.
Some point in his career, but I don't know exactly when that kicks in or not.
But you're absolutely right. He doesn't hand them out very often.
No, so I'd say that's going to be a big sticking point there is that no move clause because let's face it, Phil's seen a lot of his buddies sign a contract and go bye-bye here in the last year or so. Lost Arvidsson, lost Ellis. So I think that's going to be
you're absolutely
sticking
right,
point.
Kyle. So Kyle Duchene's no move clause kicks in 2023-24 according to Cap Friendly.
Mhm.
And the clause details, player submits a 17 no trade list. So that'll be interesting to see when that happens. But as of now, at least Duchene's definitely playing like an $8 million player for now.
Yeah. Um,
You can't argue with that right now.
yeah, I think
You got to think that Forsberg is going to get at least $8 million. And that's
yeah.
like rock bottom. You
Yeah,
know.
I would say so. It's 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 going to be expensive. It's
I
going to
can't
be
wait.
painful.
It's going to be painful, but you know what? It is what it is. This is where you're at with it. All right. Like we all know, I broke my New Year's resolution, so
Oh,
we're
like
talking about it even more.
yeah. You broke that thing like
Like 2
most
days
people
later.
do a diet. That's the first time you drove past McDonald's and you got that McFlurry,
Pretty
some fries,
much.
and a Big Mac.
Pretty much.
Uh,
Pretty much.
so
If they re-sign Forsberg, I really don't like to buy player jerseys like with names on them. I have a Pecorine jersey and I have a generic Preds jersey. I'm not a big fan of putting player names on jerseys because there's no guarantee that player's going to. I would buy a Roman Josi jersey. That's actually my next jersey purchase I want to make. But it's very few players I will trust to buy a jersey and put their name on. But if Philip Forsberg re-signs with the Preds, I am totally going to get a Philip Forsberg jersey. But he has to re-sign first.
yeah,
That's
I
my
would want that.
pledge. That's my pledge to everyone. I will wear it on the episode when he re-signs, but it has to happen. Until then, can't do it.
If they can get Jeannot to sign to the Colton Sisson special, as I like to call it, if they can get him to sign to that kind of contract, I'll buy a Jeannot jersey.
Oh, I'll take a Jeannot jersey right now for sure. All right, let's do our last topic of the night. This has been episode 101 with Chad Minton and Kyle Perkins, who's pulling in full-time duty tonight with me, and I appreciate him because solo episodes are no fun, and it's way more fun to have Kyle with me tonight. Let's do it. Let's do our last topic of the night. That is the NHL All-Star weekends coming up. Our initial thoughts of the weekend. The skills competition is what really has me intrigued. And of course, let's also throw some love to the captain, Roman Josi, who ends up getting the All-Star invite after all, with Nathan McKinnon not participating. And so I saw a really good quote from Brooks Bratton saying that originally Roman Josi was taking the family down to Miami, but for the All-Star break, but he decided he would much rather go to the NHL All-Star game in Vegas. So, and it's an honor. Of course, he's a class act. I mean, of course he's going to say it's an honor, but I don't know. Miami almost sounds a lot more fun to me.
Yeah, yeah. I believe I'd rather be on the beach than on the strip, but that's myself too. So, uh,
But good for him. I'm happy he's going to get to participate because he absolutely should be in the NHL All-Star game.
yeah,
And Kyle, I remember you bringing up, and I thought this was a good point. It's like the Central team only had one defenseman, and
yeah.
it was Cal McCarr. And it's like, how do you not have position limits for each team? Like, that makes no sense to me.
I understand, and they all have two goalies. Understandably, two goalies
Yeah.
make sense. That's UC and Cam Talbot from the Central, uh, which makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand all the rest of them being forwards except one defenseman that plays forward.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
But it'll be fun to watch. I mean, I'm way more interested in the skills competition than the actual game. And I really wish they would go back to the old format where they had team captains and they actually drafted their teams, kind of like what the NBA does. I
mhm.
just feel like that's way more exciting for the fans. Like I feel like the All-Star weekend should be for the fans. And what would make it most exciting for the fans is if each division had a captain that they voted on, and that captain drafts their Central Division team or their whatever team. Like, I think that would be way more exciting personally. or you have a pool of players. You take out divisions altogether and just have your 4 captains, and they get to do just like back on the schoolyard like we used to do, and you draft your team out of the pool of players. Like I think that'd be a lot of fun to watch live on TV. That'd be appointment viewing for me to see who Connor McDavid selects for his team, or to see who Alexander Ovechkin takes for his team. That'd be entertaining.
I'm here for all the OV content.
Yeah. And then really going back in the day, it used to be Team World versus Team North America.
Yeah.
So it was nothing about conferences. It was just like your Canadian and US players went against your European and your Russian players basically. And that was, you had pride involved in that. Like the players wanted to win because they were representing their continent. And it was like why don't they just go back to that? Why do we got to do this cheesy Central Division like round robin tournament where no one cares about divisions? Like, Central Division pride. Like, no one cares.
No, at all. Not even in the least. It's like
that's just so dumb.
The game is pointless. And whenever they did the women's 3-on-3, that was so much better than the actual All-Star game.
Yeah,
because they were still playing the regular All-Star game as 5v5 that year, and the women's game was so much better. And because they were actually playing for something, they were out there showing that they deserved to be out there. So it was a lot better product than the men's games were.
Yeah.
So, have you seen the list of the our sponsors is sponsoring the special guest and the skills competition? DraftKings.
Yeah.
So the special guests for the breakaway challenge and the one Jocelyn Lemereau Davidson, she's doing the fountain face off and the accuracy shooting.
Yeah.
Trevor Zegras, who cares about him? He's doing. I'm just kidding. The kid's something special. He's
special.
doing the breakaway challenge, but it's the 2 goalies for the breakaway challenge that are the interesting things to me.
All right.
And one of them was an NHL goalie, and it is not the one most people will think of. That would be Manon Rhéaume, who is the first female to play in the NHL. She played for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and she will be in goal for the breakaway challenge.
That's cool.
The other goalie, and I did some reading, and it kind of shocked me because I know most people in hockey have watched the movie Goon, specifically the second one. The villain from the second Goon movie, Wyatt Russell, is going to be in goal. A lot of people might know him as a U.S. agent from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I got to looking into it a little bit. He is an actual goalie, and he played for University of Alabama Huntsville.
Oh wow! Okay.
So little bit.
I like the special guest. They're definitely getting creative this year with this skills competition. Like I gotta give them extra credit for creativity. This whole fountain face-off challenge sounds very interesting to me. Basically, the players are going to take a little boat onto this little floating, face-off circle or whatever, and they're going to have to see who is the fastest to hit these targets, I guess is how it works, Kyle.
Let's see. Competition takes place on the iconic Bellagio fountains. Players will travel by boat to the rink. It says rink in quotations, and are required to successfully shoot pucks into 5 targets in the least amount of time.
I'm all for it. I will totally watch that. I know it sounds cheesy, but I'll watch it.
It looks really cool. And then they've got the giant blackjack.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know about that. That seems kind of.
I don't know.
What's your favorite skills competition though, man? Like, let's look at the classic ones. Hardest shot. I remember one of the first times I ever really got into the skills competition when I first started really getting into hockey was when Shea Weber set the world record for hardest shot when at the skills competition. I love the hardest shot. That's probably my favorite skills competition, just because it's very simple, but it's effective. And so that'll be good. Of course, I don't know. Do you think UC Saros will participate in the save streak challenge?
I
That'd
hope
be
so.
cool. That would
I
be
hope so.
cool.
I really like the save streak. I'm a bit of a goalie nerd.
Yeah.
And I said I was going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it. UC Saros got a new set of pads, and it makes me happy
Yes. He's got the
because
blue pads.
they are solid navy, and I really want him to wear those with something other than just the stadium series. I'd love to see how they look with the regular home kit. Anyways, back to the aforementioned skills contest. The fastest skater is always fun to me.
We might see Roman Yossi in that one, and he would have a chance to win too.
There was somebody, it might have been on 32 Thoughts or another podcast I was listening to. They were talking about having a contest for backwards skating. Fastest skater, but backwards. I think Yossi would be top 5 in that.
It would be so Pred's bad luck, though, that somehow Yossi gets hurt while he's doing it, and then we lose Yossi for like 3 or 4 weeks after the All-Star break, and it completely just derails our playoff run. Like, I'm sorry, I'm thinking worst case scenario here, but when I'm thinking about a skills competition and I'm thinking about backwards skating, I'm like, that would totally be on brand for him to somehow accidentally get hurt and he can't play for the Preds and for a few weeks, and then I don't know. It makes me nervous, but it is a cool idea.
I don't know. If you watch Roman skates backwards quite a bit at a high rate of speed.
It's effortless. Like, I don't even know. He doesn't even look human when he does it.
No, especially not for a guy his size.
I think he's done the fastest skater in the past, like if I remember correctly. I don't think he's ever won it, but I think he's done it before.
That would be something for a defenseman.
And then I know for sure Pekka did the save streak before. And if I remember correctly, he did pretty good in it one year. But that'd be cool to see Saros participate in that. I mean, I like the skills competition. It's a lot of fun. You've also got the shot accuracy skills competition. So I'm all in for it. I'm glad they're having it. I know some people are a little upset because they're like, you're going to have the All-Star game, but you're not going to let the players go to the Olympics. And I get that part of it too, honestly, but it's also a very complicated situation when it comes to sending players over to China. And a lot of players are nervous about going over there due to all the things that are going on in this world right now. So, the league was going to have the All-Star game. They weren't. I mean, I know Gary Bettman's not popular and he shouldn't be. I can't stand the guy and I wish he would step down. But the league was going to have an All-Star break. They were not going to. There's too much money involved. They were going to have
jersey sales and everything.
Yeah, they were going to do it. And it's in Las Vegas. They weren't going to lose the chance to do it in Las Vegas. Whether it's right or wrong, they were going to have the All-Star break. I know it's hypocritical to say we're about player safety and we don't want to, but we're still going to do this. I get it, but they were going to do it no matter what. I mean, they were going to do it. So I still remember the All-Star weekend in Nashville. And I mean, that's really when the city of Nashville showed the league that we are a hockey town.
Oh, absolutely.
That was a party. I mean, I couldn't get over it. Like how big of a party Nashville threw for the All-Star game. I mean, it was so cool. Lower Broadway was just packed. And it was really cool to see a non-football or a non-traditional Southern sport be celebrated like that week when it came to hockey. That's really when I realized the league needs to understand that Nashville is indeed a hockey town and our fans need to be respected as true great hockey fans,
Yep. Before we go, I think we need to shout out one of our favorite Milwaukeeans, and that's Connor Ingram.
Yes, give him a shout out.
I just now saw that he has been named the AHL Player of the Week. having recorded 2 shutouts and 92 saves in his past 3 games.
Very cool.
.33 goals against, .989 save average, 2 shutouts in 3 games. That's pretty good work for Connor. I'm really glad to see him doing well.
Yep. And can we go ahead and say this right now? As much as I know that I truly feel this way, he's fully ready to be the backup right now to UC Saros.
Yeah.
But I think it's very beneficial to him right now that he's getting this one last season in Milwaukee to just put out a full body of work, to put a full season together, because unfortunately he missed a season with not only with the Milwaukee not playing a full season, but he also had some personal battles that he had to deal with. So this is really awesome for him to get a full season under his belt at the AHL level. And you fully expect him to be ready to go next season as UC Saros' full-time backup.
Yes, I agree. And I love it that they didn't put him back on the taxi squad. Because if you remember, if you read any of the stuff that came out about Connor and the issues that he had, a lot of it all came to a head when he was on the taxi squad last year. And he couldn't deal with it. I love the fact that instead of putting him on the taxi squad to be the next man up for Nashville, they kept him in Milwaukee to be actually participating and in games and being the guy there. I think that was such a great move by the organization, and that shows you that, hey, they're caring about this player and his development and mental well-being, and they know it's probably not a good thing to have him sitting on a taxi squad.
Yep. And I've really loved how the organization has been there for him in his personal battles. So big kudos to the Nashville Predators organization for just being there for in the human element of things, because it's when it really comes down to it, you got to be there for your players because these players are humans. They have their own personal battles just like we all do. And so it's great to see an organization be there for their players. And so that makes you proud to be a Nashville Predators fan when you see something like that.
Oh, absolutely. It's rare to have it from a team these days that you can honestly say you're proud of how they treat people. So,
yep.
That's
all right. This has been a lot of fun. This has been episode 101 of Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Rich Howe, and Kyle Perkins. Sorry, it's like a script thing. It's stuck in my head, man. It's like muscle memory. Rich, I do miss you, man, but Kyle did an awesome job in your place. Blooper reel.
Well, we just traded one Kentuckian for another one, so
you're South Kentuckian though, right? Rich is more Northern Kentuckian.
Rich is Metropolitan Kentucky, and I'm Boondock Kentucky.
Somewhere Rich is watching, and he's like, "Oh, he missed me. He said my name."
He's so special.
Kyle, you have been an awesome co-host tonight. Love doing this with you, and you can come back anytime you want. Of course, you will be back next Monday for Perks Picks. But this has been a really fun episode, of course, and we will get ready for Thursday for a new episode. We'll watch the Preds play the Canucks tomorrow night. This has been awesome. This has been episode 101 of Catfish on Ice, presented by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. We hope all of our listeners have a really awesome rest of the week, and we will talk to you later on. Take care.
Have a good one.